Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Dotson, and I'm the founder and program coordinator for Highland Park Poetry, and the host for today's Poetry Today. I'm so glad I have two special guests with me this afternoon, June Sawyers and Gail Goepfert. I'm going to give you a brief introduction of both of them. June Sawyers was born in Glasgow, Scotland. She's written or edited more than 20 books, including two poetry collections, The Water is Wide, Celtic Poems on Time, Memory, and Loss, as well as Napoleon in Rags, music poems. She's the founder of the Phantom Collective, a do-it-yourself group that sponsors music, staged readings, theater pieces, and other programs in the Chicago area. She's a regular columnist for the Chicago Tribune. Her work has also appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle, Stage Bill, News City, Book List, and other publications. Her first e-book, Working Man, The Faith-Based Politics of Bruce Springsteen, is now available at www.nowandthenreader.com. And amongst all of those qualifications, she teaches at the Newberry Library in Chicago. Gail, she recently published and released this February her first chapbook, A Mind on Pain, by Finishing Line Press. Gail spent half a lifetime in the classroom as a teacher and now savors time spent as a student of poetry and poets. Her first book, In Gratitude for Days Gone By, combines nature photographs with poems they inspired. She's at home with image and the visual arts. Friends will tell you that she once proclaimed over dinner, "Shakespeare changed my life." Few remember the explanation why, though. She's been published in After Hours, Avocet, Caesura, Florida English, Bolts of Silk, Journal of Modern Poetry, Quill and Parchment, and the Examined Life Journal, among others. Twice, her poems have been featured on Pace buses as part of the Highland Park Poetry's Poetry That Moves initiative. And the Chicago Botanic Garden in all seasons is a faithful muse and source of inspiration for her. And I'm sorry, Gail, you also have some kind of affiliation with Rhino, is that correct? Or?
I'm associate editor for Rhino,
okay.
Just recently. So.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. What does an associate editor do?
An associate editor reads the poems that come in. We get about 10,000 poems annually.
Wow. Gosh.
So there are 13 of us, and I'm just one of those who does reading and selection and all the other things.
So that's about almost 1,000 poems a piece, right?
Something like that.
Okay. So now what is the process? I'm just curious. Do you read, so if there's a poem that you like and what you read, you give it a thumbs up and then?
The editors began reading online a few years back, I think in 2010. So we all log in online. We read a packet of poems that comes in, and we rank it 1, 2, or 3. If it gets a 1, it comes to the table to be discussed by all the editors. So,
okay. Very interesting. Yeah. Wow. I'm so glad I asked that question. But let's focus more on your books. Well, since I'm talking to you right now, Gail, let's see. This is the cover of your new book, A Mind on Pain. And the publisher is Finishing Line Press
Correct.
in Kentucky?
Right.
And how was the book selected? How did you?
I submitted it to a contest, and it was accepted, though, as a general submission. So
they thought, well, it didn't win the contest.
Right.
This is such a fabulous collection. We want to make our chapbook and publish it.
I'd like to think that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm definitely intrigued that your book is about your journey with the medical profession. Do you have a poem that would be a good intro to that for us?
I do, actually. The journey actually really kind of is intended to honor people in the medical profession as well, people who have helped me. So one of the things that has worked for me is homeopathic medicine, and this poem is about my experience with that physician. So it's called Body Tuning. For Joel Shepard. He nods to me in the waiting room, precedes me down the hall, his blue coat, doctor coat flaps. I follow the pad of his moccasins, sit across from him, eye to eye, at his tidy desk, peer at the serious glasses in a face haloed with salted hair and beard. A homeopathic MD. I'm here, I told him, because someone I met said you saved her life. I learn the routine, tell how I've been, headaches, digestion, emotions, pain, any detail that might help him decide what remedy might heal. He observes me, probes to learn more. I've wondered what he thinks of what I say, why it should matter if I prefer hot drinks to cold, or what I crave, always sugar. Mm-hmm. Is the pain more left-sided or right? Would I be comforted when sick by having someone with me, or prefer to be left alone? Am I better in the sun? Do I sleep without covers? Want a fan on my face? Am I thrifty, extravagant? Do I fear falling or ghosts? I ask about the science, about the stuff of remedies, 3,000 or more, 1 part remedy in 1,000,000,000,000 parts of water, tinctures made, diluted, and shaken from plants, animals, minerals. Who would guess? Cat's milk, salt, black widow spider, plutonium, decomposition of chopped lean beef, copper, tin, the honeybee, granite, graphite, rose quartz, the Spanish fly and oyster shells, deer, antler velvet, mountain daisies, feathers of a European finch, castor oil, arsenic, arborvitae, tea. Stories lie behind each. Rust talks from poison ivy when joints act like rusty gates. Aurum metallicum when light's gold is gone from the world. Sepia for when one wants to keep people away, like the cuttlefish that shoots out ink to ward off danger. And lachesis from the venom of the bushmaster snake that bites without warning when one needs the blood to flow. I keep going back once a month or so since 1996. It works. I go with it, this tuning. It's about finding the right potency, a search for the body's right vibration, playing music on water glasses, my body, a glass harp, tapped and tuned until it sings.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible, and I love the list of all the different treatments and their effects. Very very surprising and unusual. That's
I found it fascinating. I find it fascinating. Yes. So.
Well, since we've gotten a taste of your book, let's get a taste of June's as well. This is her latest publication. It's Napoleon in Rags by June Sawyers, and these are music poems.
Yes.
Now, was this self-published, or by a company, or what's?
Well, I'm the founder of a small arts group called the Phantom Collective, and what we do as well is this is the first publication of the Phantom.
Oh, all right.
So hopefully it will go
Have
beyond.
more.
Have more.
Yes. Oh, fabulous. Okay, that's very exciting. Can you you brought some poems.
Yes.
You want to bring one? Read one
Sure.
right now that would give us a sample.
Well, yeah, the title is a line from Bob Dylan's "Like a Rolling Stone," his great hit from the mid '60s, and I'm a huge Dylan fan. And also, I find his titles and his poetry, his lyrics, so poetic. So I wanted to. I've always had that phrase, "Napoleon in Rags," in mind as a title for something. So it fit for this idea. This is a poem about Dylan's early life in Minneapolis. He went to school in Minneapolis. He's from northern Minnesota, Hibbing. But this is called Dinkytown, the Bohemian Quarter in Minneapolis, where he went to school. Right, didn't really attend much. It's called Dinkytown. 4 small blocks that changed the world. A Martin guitar, a young man from the North Country with a voice filled with iron ore, as rusty and gravelly as any miner digging deep beneath the earth, living in a small room above Gray's drugstore for $30 a month. Toilet down the hallway, a mattress and a hot plate, and singing his songs the 10 o'clock scholar, pocketing $3 or $4 on a good night, and the ghost of Woody Guthrie.
Wow. Oh, that's very evocative.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, it's funny. When we scheduled, well, I should say, both of these poets have upcoming readings where they're the featured poet for Highland Park Poetry. June is her event is first. She's going to be at Madame Zuzu's on February 28th at 8 o'clock. That's a Saturday night. And Gail is our featured poet on the March 15th event, also at 8 o'clock, but this time at the Art Center. And so when we scheduled these, there was no, it was more like, I knew you had a book coming out,
Right.
and you had introduced yourself to me, and I
Right.
thought, sure, let's have these fabulous
Why not?
poets do events. And what fun, will be a good time. But in sort of looking at both of your publications, you do have a common thing, which is that you've got very focused collections. When I was working on my own collection of poetry, my first, it was just poems that I had written over the years and had, and I organized them, but what didn't have a one central driven theme to it. And I wondered about your process when you were putting together this manuscript. Which came first? Was it the chicken or the egg? I mean, did you look at yourself and say, oh, I have all these poems about musicians, or I have all these poems
Right.
about the medical profession.
Right.
Let's make a book, or was it the other way? You're like, I need to. Maybe you wrote one poem and then, I need to do a whole book on this.
Right.
What was your experience, Jim?
Well, I did have a few poems on music or inspired by musicians, more accurately. And I thought it'd be a good idea to put a chapbook together of poems inspired by music or musicians. And I did write some poems for the book.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
About half and half, or
Maybe
even more?
3/4.
3/4. Wow. Okay. So really, for you, the genesis was
The idea.
The idea. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And did that help you, giving you a more
Yes,
specific?
it really did. Yes. And I have it's particular musicians. It's Dylan. A few on Dylan. It's Springsteen. It's country. It's John Lennon. So there's quite a few different musicians who are represented in the book.
Oh, great. And Gail, talk a little bit about your process with the manuscript.
I'm part of a writing group called Serious Players, which is led by Alice George, and I also went to poetry camp up in Door County and tried out a few of my poems on this topic there, and had such a kind of powerful response to them that I was encouraged by both mentors who led those groups to develop a book around that. So over a course of probably 2 years, I then wrote toward that theme.
I see.
So
How many? I mean, so you started with, say, what, 4 or 5 poems?
right,
And
and
then-
I probably had 20 some, but then pared it down.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow. Very interesting.
so-
It's good to know that maybe that's what I should have been doing. Is instead of just saying, oh look, I wrote a poem, let's put it in a book. That given a specific theme really does help pull the whole process
Well, it's
together.
a personal choice too. Some people may not think that way, but I happen to think that way. And Gail, apparently you do too
I find
at
it-
times
it-
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't completely write
Yeah.
toward a theme, but I frequently have something in mind. So
Well, and I think in terms of as a reader of a book, it's nice that there's some kind of narrative thread
Right.
or narrative arc. It's like a journey. I mean, poetry has a slight disadvantage in, say, the short stories or novels, which are narrative.
Right.
And we have to sort of, while many poems can have narrative to them, as a collection, they don't
Right.
always work that way. So, okay, guilty as charged. All right. All right. So obviously, I'm really excited by this whole idea that
That's your next book.
my next book, right? Okay. And the other thing that I thought was really exciting, I've discovered about both of you. I think of you guys as Renaissance poets because you are not just poets by any stretch of the imagination. You have lots of avenues of creative expression. Gail, I understand from a little bird that you have just recently been named sort of an artist for the Northwest Cultural Arts Alliance that will be featuring your photography.
I have, and it's very exciting to. I love image somehow, and my poetry, envelops image a lot. And I've been taking photographs I was the crazy aunt who took all the family photos for years, and I love
this
nature.
This is your first book,
I love
right?
nature
So this
poetry,
was-
yes. So nature, photography and poetry, and so I'm happy to be featured by Northwest Cultural
And
Council.
what does
too.
that mean that you're featured by them as an
They
artist?
have corporate galleries,
Hmm.
and so I will have like an art show and a reception, and so.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. And June, you mentioned also the Phantom Collective, but that involves theater,
Yes.
music, as well as poetry. So,
Yes.
well, first of all, what is the Phantom Collective?
Good question.
What does it do?
Well, I founded it rather informally a couple of years ago, and I've done several events in the last few years. One of them was very short, 1-hour adaptation of Moby Dick.
Ah,
So I adapted Moby Dick. We presented it at the Grafton Pub about a year and a half ago. And we just did The Ancient Mariner in November. So again, these are short staged readings primarily. And I use professional Chicago actors.
very exciting.
And with music, quite often with music, since I love music so
So
much.
do you direct these?
No,
or
I
do
don't
you-
direct. I put it together. I write the script.
Okay.
And then the actors do their thing, and I have also a professional director.
Oh my goodness.
Upcoming is Beowulf, for example.
Wow.
I did a short 1-hour script of Beowulf, so that should be coming up in the next coming months. I'm not sure where exactly, but
Oh, very
we shall
exciting.
see. Yeah.
Well. So anyway, as I was seeing that you both have this interest in other arts, I was my next question for you is, can you talk about? I mean, do these other art forms impact you? Is there like a cross pollination that you would think of? Is that the word that I'm looking for? Or it's just that you've got so much creative energy inside that it comes out in different forms? So what's
Too many ideas, not enough time. That's
Okay.
that's a short answer.
Right. Gail?
I frequently take my camera with me where I go, so I have a friend who says, you walk along and like you're just clicking, and frequently just a photograph will prompt a poem
Okay.
that
That's
maybe
right,
goes
yeah,
off in
yeah.
a totally different direction, but
Yeah.
it's very frequent
Okay.
that happens. So.
Wow. Well, let's get back to some poetry. June, why don't you read another poem?
Okay. I have, I'll read my country poem, which I wrote for this collection. I love traditional country music, not the Nashville commercial country. So these, I mentioned some of the famous, iconic country figures in the poem. It's called Hank Williams Died with His Boots On. Hank died with his boots on in the back seat of a '52 blue Cadillac. Jimmy rained down sorrow. Dolly wore a coat of many colors. Merle sang the working man blues. Loretta was born a coal miner's daughter. Steve, well, he was born in a land of plenty. Now there ain't enough. Johnny gave the finger to the man. Tammy stood by her man. Emmylou waltzed across Texas. Iris keened the Delta in her best Arkansas twang. This is the heart and soul of country. Rowdy Saturday nights, quiet Sunday mornings, cheating hearts and honky-tonk angels. Prayer and litany and prayer, redemption and sweet, sweet salvation. Rank strangers coming together in the kingdom of days on heaven's bright shore.
Wow. I mean, I recognize many of the artists, although some of them I wasn't sure about.
Steve is Steve Earle.
Steve Earle. Okay. All right. I was surprised you didn't mention Patsy Cline.
I could have, but I wanted.
I guess their poem has its limits.
Yes.
I think. Right?
Yes, I
You could
consider
just-
Patsy. You're right. Yeah.
But she didn't make the cut.
I could add a line between now and next month.
Okay.
There you
all
go,
right.
because I'm always
Oh,
changing the poem.
okay.
What's in the book? It's
Doesn't
different sometimes
necessarily-
from what
okay.
I do in the readings.
So you mean the poem is never done?
Not quite. It's always
Fluid.
subject. Yeah, fluid. Yeah.
Fluid.
That's
Definitely
right.
fluid. Gail, can you read another
Okay.
one for us?
Actually, I'll read a recently written poem. It was suggested by a friend who,
So this is not from.
it's not from the book, but
Okay.
it's actually called Reading the Bookshelf Sideways, and it's basically titles from my bookshelves woven
Oh.
into a poem.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Oh, what a clever idea.
so it becomes like a cento or cento. Some people say it different ways. So, reading the bookshelf sideways. Here, in the gray limbo of perhaps where I live, 19 hats, 10 teacups, an empty birdcage, and the art of longing. Longing for the ocean at the end of the lane, for a suitcase of seaweed, crocus in the snow, green winter, longing for the lessons of the good body. I embrace the places that scare me, night dances from the belly, conversations with myself, sailing alone around the room. A night without armor. I wait for the hollering sun, forgo death watch before numbering the bones. The world doesn't end. Many winters, springing, delights and shadows, the all of it. A strike sparks a fire in my hands.
So are those all titles or?
They're all titles.
That is
Wow.
so
They're all
amazing.
titles.
I had seen a photograph of an idea where someone, now because they actually repeated titles in their book, they had to buy multiple copies.
Oh.
But so the photograph was like looking at a giant sandwich of books
Oh,
where they were put sort of sideways so that you could then read it like a.
I saw it on Facebook. Someone had done it with just like 5 books, and I thought, well, I have lots of books, so
Yeah,
um,
very clever,
Yeah,
and,
so-
but and yet so illuminating. Yeah,
it was
very
fun
neat.
to do. It was a fun thing.
Well, I guess my next question has to do is, what authors inspire you? Which is a good segue from that poem. Do you have any particular authors? Although you also mentioned, Gail, that you have some mentors.
Alice George has published a book, and Robin Chapman is another person that I consider a mentor. She has published numerous books, and I think her poetry is closer to mine. She's also an artist, but she loves nature-inspired things, but she has many talents. So I actually have been reading a lot of Louise Glick recently, and have sort of modeled some of my writing on her style recently. I became very captivated with her. So I would say most recently she's the person that inspires me. So
Very neat. June.
Well, I was thinking about that. I think if I had to choose a favorite poem, which is hard to do, but right now it would be by Jane Kenyon, Otherwise.
Okay.
But other poets have also been influential. I'm thinking of Yeats and Wordsworth, Keats, but also Seamus Heaney. And there's 2 not so famous on this side of the ocean poets from Scotland who are from the Hebrides, and that would be Soyley MacLean and Angus Peter Campbell, and they were very influential in my poetry.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I'm not familiar with either of
Yeah.
those. Okay. I'm so enchanted. Actually, we're my family. I guess I have relatives that came from Scotland, and so I should probably look more up on that. Can you talk about writing rituals or routines at all? Do you have a secret?
I do. It's one word.
Oh.
Deadline.
Okay. All right.
No deadline. Even self-imposed deadline also helps.
Okay. So you literally, like mark it on a calendar,
Or
say
mentally.
you say this. I need a poem done
Yeah.
by this date.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Okay. Well, that's good. I like that. It's succinct.
it helps.
Yes. Gail.
I'm glad that you went first, because that's exactly what I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Use the deadline because I take a class like 9 months of the year, and every week
Right.
is a deadline. And
Oh, I see. Right.
I don't think I've missed a single one of them.
Wow.
So
That's great.
I'm not great at self-imposed deadlines, but
Well, I guess
Yeah.
having a class, though, when you've got a room full of other people,
Right.
participants who are
Right.
expecting Gail to show up with a poem,
right,
Right.
that means you
Right.
got to do some writing.
right.
I need to do that. This is another thing that I've learned. Okay, find a theme for your next book and
You're going to
and
be so
post some
busy the
deadlines.
next coming weeks and months.
Right. Any lucky things that you think about, or I don't know. I was going to say rituals, but in the sense of, you know, what is it when you have I don't know, like spit. What do you call that when
Like
you?
a charm?
A
or
charm, yeah,
something?
like a lucky charm or something. No, a lucky pen.
No, not really, but also I'll say that just the walking down the street, things come to mind. So I need to have a notebook with me at all times and a pen, and I jot things down. So
Okay.
that helps. When there's no deadline, that also helps. Just walking down the street or taking the train, and then just allowing your mind to wander.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a lucky charm, but
Okay.
but it still works.
2 feet.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Right.
Okay. Well, and you would perhaps add your camera.
I would add my camera. The next manuscript I'm working on is kind of because I'm a little geeky about words. So you're looking for inspiration. One of the ideas I had when I was finishing this book was that I wanted to write a book where each poem was prompted by a lexicon of words that I like read and didn't know, or something like that. So I'm about 35 poems into that, and so it's been fun.
How I mean, you're talking about a full collection. So how many words are you hoping to have?
I'm hoping for a full collection.
Okay, that's very impressive. Do you have a new project that you're working on now? I mean, that's the thing about books is that once it's published, it's out in the world, but then you're on to your next thing.
I usually write nonfiction. So the poetry is just a sort of an aside, a side project. So I have many ideas for books. I just need to have a deadline, self-imposed or otherwise, and get to it.
Do you have a working title for this lexicon book? Or you?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't. You know, it's hard. Titles are hard, I think. No.
The only reason I came up with a title for a book I thought was like Shrapnel from an Exploding Mind. I thought would make a good title.
Yes.
But then the thing is, I had no substance behind it. It was just like there was no, what poems are associated with that? Would it all be like war poems or?
Well, it could be just a line in a poem.
Could be a line in a poem.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
But I have yet to write that poem, so I'm sort of stuck. Well, anyway, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. We really look forward to your events where you'll read a lot more poems. I'm sorry we didn't get to read as many today. But again, June Sawyers is going to be with us on February 28th at Madame Zuzu's. And Gail Goepfert will be with us at the Arts Center on March 13th. Both of those events are at 8 o'clock. And there will be an open mic afterwards, which means that we welcome poets. Well, we welcome everybody to these events. But poets may bring up to 6 poems to share with the audience in our open mic afterwards. And we're really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right.